Hello everybody. Welcome to TCOM 408 Online. I'm Dr. Mike Gerhard, Ball State University, and you're watching online video number 6. How are you today? I hope you have a smile on your face. In this video, we're going to continue to focus on the ethical issues that focus on duties and obligations. Not virtue, not character, not consequences, but duties and obligations. In the last video, we talked about the great philosopher Immanuel Kant and the moral imperative. In this video, we'll continue to discuss a few more duty-based theories of ethics. Now, two of our core duties and values, at least for most of us, are the notions of justice and fairness and equity in society. In the legal system, we have a chance at justice because we're all guaranteed due process of law, which helps guarantee equal treatment under the law. But what about out there in the rest of the world? How do we apply the concept of equality and fairness? If those are your concerns, you're probably an egalitarian. Egalitarianism, that's the doctrine that all people are created equal and deserve equal rights, equal opportunities. This is about equity and fairness. The principle of egalitarianism. One way to look at it is this: that which is just is that which is fair. Justice is closely related to fairness. Now, let me introduce you to a theory put forth by a philosopher named John Rawls called the veil of ignorance. The veil of ignorance, a very interesting theory. Now, according to Rawls, justice emerges when we make decisions without considering the status of the people involved, without considering where they fall in the social system. So we try not to consider factors like race and ethnicity and gender and age when making decisions about fairness and justice. The veil of ignorance. Behind the veil of ignorance, everybody is equal. You ever look at the statue of Lady Justice? Note that she is blindfolded. Justice is supposed to be blind. It shouldn't matter what your race, age, gender, or any other demographic characteristic is as it factors into a legal decision. Now, we know that justice isn't blind, that there are gross inequities in the criminal justice system, but it should always be aimed at the idea of fairness, the veil of ignorance. During the pandemic, people are walking around with a mask, and this often reminds me of John Rawls and the idea of the veil of ignorance. You know, when we look at people today, we can't really see who they are because they're wearing a mask. So it's much more difficult to impose our prejudices, our biases, our judgments about people. It's kind of interesting that right now everybody appears somewhat equal behind the mask. Let me introduce you to another cool theory about your duties. This is the philosopher W.D. Ross and his pluralistic theory of duty. Pluralistic means multifaceted, a house of many rooms, so multidimensional. Pluralistic theory of duty. Now, Ross identified 7 core duties for all of us. All right, you do not have to agree with this list. You could add many other duties to this list, or perhaps you would subtract from the list. Okay, it's not an exhaustive list. It's not a perfect list, but it's a good summary, I think, of some of the basic duties that we have to ourselves and to the world around us. So the first of these is the duty of fidelity. Think of this as being honest and trustworthy and keeping your promises. This is the duty to act according to your promises, including the implicit promise we make every day to tell the truth. Another important duty is the duty of beneficence. I hope you're familiar with the idea of beneficence. We have a beautiful statue on campus called Beneficence, and it symbolizes the duty to give back to the world, to help other people who are suffering, or to help increase pleasure, improve people's character. The idea of giving back to the world is the duty of beneficence. The duty of non-malfeasance. Now just think of this as do no harm to others. This is the duty to avoid hurting people or harming people. Do no harm. The duty of justice. This is about fairness and equity. This is the duty to ensure that people get what they deserve, whether it's rewards or punishment. Justice is about ensuring that people get what they deserve. The duty of self-improvement. I talked about this in an earlier video. This is simply the duty to improve ourselves, to keep growing professionally, intellectually, morally, spiritually. Okay? To stay on the path of self-improvement. We owe that to ourselves and the world around us. How about the duty of reparation? The duty of reparation. We all make mistakes in life. We're humans. We hurt people. Sometimes it's unintentional, but we all hurt people. And then that means that quite often we need to make amends to people. And that doesn't always just mean saying, I'm sorry, my bad, dude. Okay, sometimes it means setting it right with somebody. Sometimes we have a duty to recompense somebody if we've acted wrongly towards them. A final duty is the duty of gratitude, the duty to have a grateful heart. You know, I have found that a grateful heart means that you're basically happy, but it's the duty to thank and to benefit people who have benefited us, to show gratitude. Those are incredibly important duties for me, and if you take them all together, the pluralistic theory of duty, if we can all be honest, giving, do no harm, care about fairness and equity, self-improvement, making the right kind of amends to people, and having a grateful heart, if we can embrace all of that, I think we've got a darn good moral foundation. Now, one problem with all these duty-based theories is what the heck do we do when the prima facie duties are in conflict? Okay, sometimes the duties are in conflict. For example, we should tell the truth, but we shouldn't harm people. Sometimes that comes into conflict. The problem with the duty-based theories is they don't help us prioritize, to figure out which duty is the most important. And we'll talk about that later in a later lecture. That's more of an art form, is figuring out which duty is the most important when they come into conflict. Okay, one final duty I want to talk about is the duty to self. Okay? This is called egoism. It's an ethical philosophy that focuses on self, or this is the mantra, it's all about me and my self-interest. Egoism. So the biggest proponent of the theory of egoism was a 20th century philosopher, writer named Ayn Rand. She was the big proponent of ethical egoism, the idea that we're doing the right thing if we're checking out what's in our best interest, what's in it for me. Egoism says that an action is morally right if it maximizes one's self-interest. This is all about taking care and valuing self. In the world of egoism, the primary duty is to self, not others. In other words, it's all about me, not us or we. Ayn Rand even wrote a book called The Virtue of Selfishness. Now, I disagree with this book. I don't think selfishness is a virtue. In fact, I think it's a character defect, and it's the basic spiritual and moral problem is self-centeredness. But Ayn Rand says it's important to look out for self. Check out this quote. If any civilization is to survive, it is the morality of altruism that people have to reject, not selfishness. Well, I disagree with that. I think she's maybe thinking that, we can't have a world where everybody is just given everything. But selfishness as a virtue, you'll have to figure that one out on your own. Now, I won't totally dismiss egoism. Sometimes it has its benefits and purposes. What if you frame it as a call for independence, of thinking and acting for yourself, staying true to your art, to your purpose, to your convictions, to your values? That kind of egoism makes sense to me, but not the form that's based on kind of childish self-centeredness, all about me. I think that the people who refuse to wear the mask are being egotistical. They're not caring so much about others. We don't wear the mask so much for ourselves. We wear it to try and protect others. All right, that will wrap it up on these ideas about doing your duty. Here again, the basic idea is don't worry about your happiness. Just do your duty. Now, there are some problems with duty-based ethics. Quite often it's the outcomes that matter, the results that matter. It's not our intentions or duties or virtues. It's what happens in the real world. And then also, again, what happens when we have conflicting duties or values or responsibilities. That's a real moral dilemma when two ethical duties or principles are in competition. What do we do? That creates quite a problem to work our way through. So, in the next video, we'll start talking about the final approach to ethics, the one that looks at the consequences or the outcomes, consequentialist theories. Sorry, Kant, outcomes do matter. And in the next lecture, we'll consider the outcomes or the results of our actions. So, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Please keep staying safe, practicing social distancing and all those other safety measures. Get outside too and get a little fresh air. And I hope you stay safe. Take care. I'll see you again later.